share that with us. Yai, lai, lai. That's it. Yai, lai, lai, lai. Beautiful. Yai, 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 lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, lai. Yai, 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 yai. Yai, lai, lai. Yai, yai, yai. Yai, yai, yai. Yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, yai. Yai, lai, yai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, lai. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for that beautiful melody. Coming out of this week of Yom HaShoah, I'm getting all these flashbacks to times that I encountered different instances of the Shoah, the Holocaust in my life. And one was on this remarkable teen trip in Europe and then in Israel with Nifty. And we went into this concentration camp that was particularly peculiar. It's called Theresienstadt. You might have heard of it. It was used as like a demonstration to the Red Cross to show that everything was copacetic when it really was not. And there was a remarkable place there. It was a synagogue in the camp with stars painted on the ceiling that the inmates would go to and still live out their Judaism in secret. And so we came there as one group, all these Jewish teenagers experiencing this for the first time, and we sing that same melody together. And this sort of this act of defiance and life. So tonight, we're here to renew that flame of the Jewish people. We're going to celebrate Shabbat, which holds us for all time. Turn to your left and your right. See these wonderful faces who are joining us tonight. If you don't know a new face, please say hello. Say Shabbat Shalom. And we bring this night together with the light of our candles. Elaine and Amy, I'd love to invite you up to light the Shabbat candles as we all greet each other on this beautiful Shabbat night.
Maya hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya hayom, Shabbat Shalom. We'll sing the blessing all together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks so much, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Friends, you should have a siddur, a prayer book in front of you. And for those of you at home, davening in your home, in your prayer space, you'll sing along these beautiful words. We open up on page 12 to say, L'chu neranana, come, let us sing joyously to God on this Shabbat. Page 12. L'chu neranana l'Adonai, nariya litzur yishenu, nekad mafanav v'toda, bizvirot nariya lo. Page
Friends, we just said Luchu Naranana. We need to sing to God with all of our strength, even in the back row. We need to hear you. Okay, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Next page, 13.
We just did.
Oh, we just did that. Sometimes
Rabbi,
I'm so
you
caught
so
up in that.
immersed in the moment.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, we're still singing Lecha Dodi now. Boy, take it for granted, the page numbers in my head. Okay, page 20, Lecha Dodi. I'll say this. This Pesach, this Passover, I had a very peculiar Seder. I had been exposed right beforehand. And as a result, no COVID, but a little exposure. And so I spent Passover Seder in that liminal space of the doorway to the house. So we opened the door so we had a little fresh air.
Were you Elijah? I mean, you were next to Elijah?
I was Elijah the whole time. So I really know doorways now. And honestly, it actually gave me a whole new perspective on the Passover Seder, which is of all the meals, which pretty much every meal this applies to, but all the more so on Passover, supposed to be open to guests and to strangers. And I was sort of the stranger to my own family Seder. Absolutely bizarre, but powerful. And anyway, for this Lecha Dodi, let's think about the entrance to our synagogue that we all came through when we greet the Shabbat bride. We're going to rise on the final stanza to greet her. But first, we sing Lecha Dodi, page 20. We do stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9. Please join us.
Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, yishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'ritila. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'lecha, ki makor haberacha. Merosh mikedem nasucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoriri, hitoriri, kivarech kumi ori. Uri, uri, shir talveri, kavod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, nekabela. בשמחה ובשולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה. You may be seated. We turn to page 26 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, b'ma divrach yirutei v'amlik malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala, b'gala, ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם עולם ועמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר בתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שבית קודשה בריחו לעלמין כה ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו Amen. We rise on page 28 for our Baruch Hu prayer. Ya la la ya ya, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la la ya ya, ya la la ya ya, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. La 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 ya ya, ya la la ya ya, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la ya ya, ya la la ya ya, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya. You may be seated.
Please join me on page 31 for that bottom reading. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרביב.
Amen. I invite you to turn slightly preemptively to page 34, so you can kind of follow along with what I'm saying here. When I was in Los Angeles, many Jews there, similar to Columbus, and I had the chance to study in different yeshivas, if you will, different seminaries, and one of them was the Ziegler School, which is where conservative rabbinical students are ordained, and I studied specifically with Rabbi Brad Artson, who is the Rosh Yeshiva there. If you've ever seen a photo, very large Jufro, very sweet guy, and incredibly intelligent. And he shared with one of my classes this visualization for the Shema. And he shared two, actually, so I'll share one tonight. So if you look at the words of the Shema, he says, by the way, he's a process theologian. If you want to fully unpack that, come talk to me later. But he says, Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, the future is yours to choose. As if there's some lure guiding us towards these mitzvot, toward these good deeds. He says, hear, O Israel, the future is yours to choose. The path of godliness is before you. For God, and God's name being representation of past, present, and future, is one. And what you choose, that kingdom of God, will become eternal forever. So we hold that visualization now. We say the end of the previous prayer with Cantor Moses, and then enter the Shema together.
Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema. Page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom alevavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet.
This is my first Shabbat with you coming out of Passover. And so as we turn to the Michamocha on page 40, just a reminder that we're free, but we're not fully free yet. No, I see people shaking their heads, not yet. So there's a concept of freedom from and freedom to. Passover was freedom from slavery. We got out of that narrow mindset. Now we're expanding ourselves, opening up in this process, this period called the Omer, for 50 days until this other very underrated, very major pilgrimage festival, Shavuot, comes along. And then we are free to adopt this divine way of life of being Jewish. So, join us, Michamocha, page 40.
Michamocha.
Oseh
Felem,
Felem
Nora,
Nora
Tehilot,
Tehilot
Oseh
Oseh
Felem, Michamocha, Ma'elim Adonai, Michamocha, Nedar Bakodesh. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקר ים לפני משה ומרים זה לי, ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, Kal Yisrael. We turn to page 42 for our Hashkivenu prayer. And as we know, this is our prayer for shalom, for peace. My God, do we need a collective shalom? Of course, we also need our personal shalom. So as we pray and chant these words together, maybe visualize for yourself, what is your Sukkot Shlomecha? What is your shelter of peace that protects you, that shields you, that propels you to bring peace to yourself and to the world? Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Page 44. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Okay, I'm going to be completely candid with you. There are certain aspects of Jewish ritual I find kind of awkward, physically challenging. Rituals that I didn't know or I didn't really do while I was growing up. I simply just don't have the muscle memory for them. So I'm going to give you an example. So this, you want to imagine maybe wearing a slightly bigger one of these. But I don't know if you've ever noticed what our wonderful Cantor does when we're entering the Shema. She wears her talit, like I do in the evening, and it marks her as what we call the shots. Shaliach Tzibur, the leader of the service. Normally wear it in the morning, but that's what marks us as leaders of the service. And then before the Shema, she gathers the tzitzit, these fringes of her shawl, all together representing, see, I'm having trouble with it.
Do I need
all
to
together
model?
Representing, thank you, I need you on there, representing the 613 mitzvot, the commandments, or the divine directions given in our Torah. And by gathering them all together, all four corners, she expresses symbolically God bringing the entirety of the Jewish people back together, finally, after thousands of years of life in exile, back to the promised land. Now, I'm going to have to ask her perhaps after services to show me her technique, because I just can't do it right. And I'm telling you, in the 5 seconds that I have before we say the Shema, I'm trying to prepare myself for the Shema with what we call kavanah. I'm trying to be present and intentional. And instead, I'm searching left and right for these fringes as they slip through my fingers. And I'm telling you, if I'm wearing one of those big talit, right, the large ones, and I'm sitting down, forget about it. So if God was really relying on me to bring the Jewish people together with that act, we'd be in exile for quite a long time, folks. So I settle. I stop worrying about it. I just cover my eyes. I try to be present, and I focus on the oneness, the eternity of God's name. And that's meaningful to me. And when I learned this ritual in rabbinical school, I was not alone in this struggle. In my class, one of my best friends, who also happens to be a son of Ohio and is soon to be rabbi, in class, he once leaned over to me and he said, you know, maybe 613 commandments are not enough. If there was 614, i.e. just one more not, maybe that would make it a little easier for people to find and grab their tzitzit, right? Halavai, if only. We could really use one more mitzvah, couldn't we? Now, the 614th commandment is actually not his idea. I know that you're now on the edge of your seats to know what it is. So let me give you some context first. My friend and I were in this class on American Jewish thought. And at that time, we were focusing on the period of post-Holocaust theology. If you have not studied this topic, I invite you to please let me know that you're interested, because I would love to dive into it and learn about it with you. Post-Holocaust Jewish thought brings to mind some of the most fascinating theological challenges and proofs that you will probably encounter regarding God's presence in our lives. And after the Shoah, theologians tackled this age-old topic we call theodicy, questioning God basically. And they engage in the spectrum of thought between, say, two polar opposites. On the one hand, and if the Holocaust happened, how could God exist? Okay? And the opposite being, if God did not exist, how could our people have survived? And how did individuals survive the horrors of that time? Now, Temple Israel hosted a beautiful Yom HaShoah ceremony together with our Columbus community, many different synagogues, this past Wednesday evening. We brought forth the memory of those whose lives were taken from them, and we stood in solidarity with those who miraculously survived. And now on this Shabbat, after Yom HaShoah, we're going to complete the Torah portion that we call Acharei Mot, which literally means after death. The opening of this parasha actually refers to the deaths of Aaron, Moses' brother, the deaths of Aaron's sons, who in this parasha we're told came too close to God. There are many other explanations given as well for why they died. Now, of all the potential dates in the calendar year, the state of Israel placed Yom HaShoah, this day dedicated to the Holocaust, at the end of the month of Nisan, at the end of the month of Passover, not during Passover for good reason, end of the month, so that could be associated with this Torah portion deliberately. Achrei Mot, after the death, after Yom HaShoah. Our challenge as those who remember is to ask, what now? Where do we go from here? Emil Fackenheim, the 20th century philosopher and Reform rabbi, recognized this as a crisis for philosophy. And he had the chutzpah to add a 614th commandment, to not abandon Judaism after the Holocaust. We can understand his rationale. To abandon Judaism would be to give Hitler a posthumous victory by assimilating and thus disappearing as a people. Now, Fackenheim passionately wanted the Jewish story to continue, and he believed that all Jews today should make it their paramount concern. As a rabbinic student, Fackenheim was arrested after Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. He then spent 3 months in a concentration camp outside Berlin, and then was released on the condition that he leave the country. This was early in the war. Now, first, he managed to pass his rabbinical examinations and was ordained in Berlin before fleeing Germany. So he had his priorities in order. Now, Fackenheim taught about the post-Kantian tradition in German philosophy. He studied the writings of Kant, Hegel, Kierkegaard, and even the Nazi Heidegger. He became an important writer on the Holocaust alongside other immigrant figures you may have heard of, like Elie Wiesel. Now, while his accent was something along the lines of German, Canadian, Scottish, all combined, can you try imagining that? His works are actually considered to be of the North American school of Jewish thought. So one quote, he writes, "We are forbidden to turn present and future life into death as the price of remembering death in Auschwitz. And we are equally forbidden to affirm present and future life as the price of forgetting Auschwitz." In other words, don't fixate on the memory of the Shoah so as to not live your life. But also, do not live a life in which the memory of the Shoah has no place. He presents a paradox now, one that has existed since ancient times. How do we move on and live our lives while never forgetting what happened? The same paradox appears in regards to this ancient and eternal enemy of Israel, the people of Amalek. Now, I love this particular verse in the Torah. "You shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Lo tishkach, do not forget." I imagine you're like me, I'm still wrapping my mind around that one. We're caught between past trauma and future anxiety. Achrei Mot, our Torah portion, has a mitzvah for us, a divine direction. It tells us, do not imitate the practices of the land of Egypt where you dwelt, nor of the land of Canaan to which I will bring you, nor shall you follow their laws. My rules alone you shall observe and faithfully follow my laws. I am, in Hebrew, Yud He Vav He Adonai, the eternal, your God. It's a peculiar linguistic structure here. It's an instruction followed by the divine name. Why does God state the ineffable name after this and so many other commandments? We learn this in Hebrew. God's name is rooted in the verb to be, lihiot. And out of the letters of God's name, one can form the Hebrew words of to be, the different forms, past, present, and future. You may know the famous melody, Adon Olam, V'hu haya, v'hu hove, v'hu yihyeh, b'tifara. By adding this divine name after the mitzvah, we know then that these directions are for all time. Now, as Fackenheim directed us, the past cannot dictate our lives, nor can our lives erase the past. God's laws, this Jewish tradition, cannot be abandoned. Our tradition gives us a path, the narrow bridge that we must walk on in the here and now. You may know the song, Kol Ha'olam Kulo. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge, and the most important thing is to not be afraid. We must not remain frozen in the past, but walk forward in this moment. We honor the memory of the Shoah and the generations before us. We are mindful of the dangers that threaten our people, and we take steps to protect the generations to come. We do this by living fully in this moment. Perhaps tzitzit, the fringes that represent all four corners of the world, perhaps they're actually difficult to find before the Shema for a reason. It's not easy to get Jews to agree to be under one roof. You know, it's something like herding cats, finding your cell phone. But we did it in this Yom HaShoah service here in Columbus. We did it. We came together as one community. And so we're going to do our best to find and gather our tzitzit, no matter how difficult it is. We're going to come together to live as one people. The psalmist wrote, Lo amut ki echye. I will not die, but live. What could be more Jewish than that? Please turn with me now to page 339 for the second song on that page, Kol Ha'olam Kulo, page 339.
Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod. Ve'ha'ikar, ve'ha'ikar, lo lefachem, lo lefachem klal. Ve'ha'ikar, ve'ha'ikar, lo lefachem klal. Lai, 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 Yasher koach.
Toda rabah.
We continue with our Amidah prayer. We turn back in our Siddur to page 46, and we stand together as one community as we begin our tefillah together. We'll sing the first three blessings with a reminder that, well, it doesn't look or feel like summer yet. We don't say Mashiv HaRuach, we say Morid Hatal together as we're bringing in this new season. We begin together, page 46. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita gilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 48. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu b'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 50. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, בלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. 52. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently using the traditional words until page 62. Of course, feel free to use the words of your own heart and be seated when you have concluded with your own personal prayer. At the conclusion of our personal prayers, we also add a collective prayer for all of those in our lives who need a refuat hanefesh, a refuat haguf, a full healing of body and soul. So we turn to page 253 for our Misha Berach, and we will have an opportunity to share those names aloud for whom you are praying for. Strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Please add those names now. We are praying for Lev Heschel ben Batami Ve'akov, Necha bat Sarah Rivka, Aaron David ben Pialea, Harav Tuvia Levi ben Yosef Tzvi HaKohenu Batya, Yaakov Yitzchak ben David Verachav, Eliyahu ben Sarah, Harav Reuven Shlomo ben Mendel Velea, Naomi bat Miriam v'Harav Yosef, Gittel bat Yehuda v'Chaya, Sissel Chana bat Yitzha Rivka, Levia bat Rachel, Gavriela bat Nehemiah u'Dvorah, Rachel Devorah, Yocheved bat Fruma v'Raphael, Eliana Shai ben Benyamin v'Shira Leah, Sandador ben Sarah, Miriam bat Simcha v'Shifra, Sarah Masha bat Ganesha v'Moshe, Reuven Avraham ben Mordechai v'Ada, Jerry Bain, Carrie Casperson. We're praying for Becky Caudle, Pat Caudle, Barton Cohen, Pamela Cohen, Bree Craig, David Dockner, Larry Footer, Karen Gillen, Warren Grove, Annette Harris, Ethan Kadish, Jeff Cape, Ray Carlsberger, Robert Keynes Jr., Delma Killinger, Jesse Cloth, Kaya Cloth, Marilyn Lassen, Bill Lazaro, Cheryl Logan, Gerald McBreedy, Chris McGowan, Maddie Osborne, Mike Nolan, Hassan Noach, Anthony Paneth, Clark Patton, David Schulman, Susan Schubert, Michael Thrush, Annette Turner, and Mary Lou Wagner. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Shlema, full healing. Please turn with me to page 258 for a prayer for our country, the bottom paragraph. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
And on the next page, a prayer for Israel. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. And we sing together, Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Sur Yisrael ve'goalo. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Sur Yisrael ve'goalo. So one special prayer addition tonight. that, as Rabbi Klein said, we are in a very special period from the second night of Passover all the way to the revelation of the Torah that we receive on the holiday of Shavuot, is the time of counting the Omer, where in agricultural time it was a counting of the grains. But in our time, we have this anticipation where we count up. I think there's a difference between counting down and counting up the days till Shavuot. So we say a special blessing on page 278. And this blessing reflects a beautiful passage from Psalm 90 that says, "Teach us to count our days so we attain a heart of wisdom." And I like to say that we should remember to count our days, but we should also make our days count. So I sing the blessing, chant the blessing for you on page 278, and I'll count the day of the Omer, which technically you're not supposed to do till the stars go down, but you know, we're here together now, so. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Hayom arba'a asar yom shehem shnei shavuot la Omer. Tonight, we'll start the 14th day of the Omer, which is 2 weeks of this special Omer period. And so we rise together now on page 282 for our Aleinu prayer. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shehu notei shamayim veyosed aretz, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגותי מרומים, ואלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו You may be seated.
We turn our thoughts now to loved ones, friends who are no longer with us in body, but very much here in memory and in spirit. I will share first the names of our congregation that are observing mourning. First, observing Shiva, the first week of mourning, is Stan Ziegler. I invite you to please rise now if you're observing the first week of mourning. For Shloshim, the first 30 days, we are remembering Paul Sharfin. If you're observing the first 30 days, the first month of mourning, please rise. Would you like to please share your name?
It's Paul.
Thank you. If you're observing the first year or the first 11 months of mourning, I invite you to please rise now. And now I'm going to read the names of the yortzites, the anniversaries of the deaths. Please rise if you hear the name of your loved one. Elizabeth Abel, Itka Agranoff, Alan Baker, Audrey Chambers, Rosa Dembo, Sarah Fuhrer, Irving Fireman, Malcolm S. Friedenberg, Ira Fritz, Leatrice Gordon, David Meyer Gordon, Nancy Greenspoon, Douglas Gross, Saul Halper, Albert A. Carmia, Max Cattler, Ellie Cohen, Kurt Kohr, Jeanette Colton, Bernard L. Chriselman, Barbara Lapine, Alexander Lederer, Faye Snyder Levison, Dorothy Lovett, Herman Luckoff, Ann Michelson, Evelyn Moss, Alice Levy Nussbaum, Louis Robbins, Conrad Robinson, Stephen Rosenthal, Maxwell S. Ross, Grace Rotman, Molly Rubin, Gail Salmons, Sandy Schupak, Joanne Schwartz, Shirley Stern, Ian David Taylor, Hank Weinstein, Louis Weiss, Saul Wolinski. I'd like to add my grandparents, as I know my parents are watching on YouTube there, for the yortzites of Herbert and Thelma Rubenstein. If I did not mention a name of someone that you're observing a anniversary for, a yortzite, or someone that you're thinking of today, this week of Yom HaShoah, we think of all the millions that perished. Please say a name if you're remembering it now. Thank you. Thank you. We say, Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing. And I invite us now to all rise with those who are mourning in solidarity, memories of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, as we turn to the Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechmata da'amiran be'olma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to the entire world. We say together, Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. It's now, yes, my honor to call up Joan Fulb, who has graciously been coerced into giving us announcements. And it's just great to have you. Oh, and Zach will bring up a microphone if you don't mind, Zach. Thanks so much, so we can hear Joan loud and clear for us and for those on YouTube. Hang tight here, Joan. We got a microphone coming to you. They can hear you, but those on YouTube cannot. Here comes the microphone. Okay. Thank you, Joan. Thanks, Zach.
I'd like to thank Rabbi and Cantor for the inspiring service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like just to make a few announcements of what's happening at Temple Israel this week, because there's always something happening here. Jewish Meditation and Musar is on hiatus. There's going to be a sisterhood meeting Sunday morning at 10:30 with coffee and nosh to discuss the future. The sisterhood has been like on sabbatical, and there are a lot of people, a lot of women, younger women, who really would like to become more active. And so please come to the sisterhood meeting Sunday morning at 10:30. Wednesday, we're having a ladies' night out at Milano's. If you have an RSVP to Ellen Half, please call her either later this evening or tomorrow. And Jewish Columbus Yom HaAtzmaut is going to be at the JCC Thursday, May 5th, 5 to 7. And today's the last day to reserve food. It's kosher falafel. And Temple Israel will have a booth, so come and say hi.
And actually, Joan, let me just interrupt because it's before the evening of Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day. There's a virtual event the evening before on Wednesday evening. I'll be participating in that as well. But so Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day, goes into Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day. So look for that through Jewish Columbus. There'll be a link for everybody to join that virtual event.
Thank you, Cantor.
Sure.
I want to thank you again to the clergy and to Cantor Greenberg. Okay. And,
Yes.
And thank you, Pam. Oh, Pam's already back there. Thank you, Pam and Judy, for ushering this evening. Appreciate it. Okay, Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Zach, as well. Appreciate it. Joan, I don't know if you had a chance to say hi to Joan yet, but board member, ed team member, I'm just scratching the surface of how amazing Joan is. So thank you, Joan.
Well, let's raise a glass to Joan and
Yes.
Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzah banu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh b'reshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Yesh chala?
Yesh.
Okay.
Wait for the grand reveal. Okay.
B'kasha.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Devon.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, v'yizrach kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imro, amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oh, say shalom imromav, oh yeah, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imro, amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Yasher koach.
Peaceful,
If you're a new
Shabbat.
face, come say hi. Shabbat shalom.
La, 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 la.
Hello.
Yes.